Right. Will you be honoring Congressman Nadler's request to investigate recent police harassment and brutality against various people across the country?
Yeah, we have, I think, Tom Perez, we just did something earlier. We have, I think, a record number of what we call pattern or practice investigations presently underway in our Civil Rights Division. It looks at the way in which police departments are conducting themselves in interacting with the citizens that they serve. I think we have about 11 or 16, I don't know the exact number, of these investigations presently underway in New Orleans, in Puerto Rico, other jurisdictions. And we take, again, this very seriously. And what I think our Civil Rights Division has done this time around, and different from the way I think it's been done in the past, is to be more collaborative as we approach jurisdictions where these investigations are underway. Work with the elected leadership there, work with the communities that raise these concerns, work with the police departments. And as a result of that, as Tom was indicating, we actually are now getting requests from jurisdictions for us to come in and to help them come up with ways in which we can help them deal with the issues that separate their police departments from the communities that they are supposed to serve. And this ultimately has an impact on law enforcement. If you have communities that do not believe in their police departments, they are less likely to provide evidence, less likely to help police departments, and that ultimately serves as a deterrent to good law enforcement.
You talked earlier about the sobering security briefs that you get every morning. What can you tell us about our fight against terrorism in this country and your efforts to stem the tide on those who would do us harm?
Well, I think that we need to be wary that there are people and organizations out there who would still want to do America harm. But you should also be reassured by the fact that there are hundreds, thousands of men and women who stay up later than I do, who work long, unbelievably long hours with little recognition, monitoring, gathering intelligence, formulating plans, disrupting plots that people never hear about, that we have a good apparatus in place that is designed to detect, disrupt, interfere with those who would do our nation harm. We have a president who focuses on this, spends every Tuesday with his national security team, bringing us all together, in addition to the things that he does on a daily basis. He brings us all together as a team on Tuesday afternoons to talk about the threat environment. So, you know, but we have to be wary. We have seen a transformation of the nature of the threat from Al-Qaeda at its core to what we've come to call these lone wolves, people who, for whatever reason, have become radicalized and are determined to do harm to the country. Either they come here on airplanes with bombs in their underpants, or they are people who would blow up a car in Times Square, people who act as individuals. And it's a very difficult thing to keep track of those people, to prevent them from engaging in these negative acts. But we have, again, mechanisms in place that I think monitor people in a way that's consistent with our Bill of Rights. But that's one of the things that I think that really concerns me, and I know concerns other members of the national security team. How do we deal with these individuals, these lone wolves?
Is the problem, is the world problem getting better or worse? Are we making marked improvements, or do you see it getting worse?
I actually think things are getting better. I think that we've certainly, with the use of our military, been very successful in removing from the field, I think as the president described it, that's the term that he used a couple of days ago, removing from the field people like bin Laden, Alaki, people who were charismatic and who were leaders and inspired others to do harm to the United States. I think that the move to democracy in the Middle East is something that can only be can be a positive if the transformation happens in a way that respects individual rights, individual liberties. If voting is something that is seen as a core principle in these new regimes. So I think I'm actually optimistic about where we are. I think we're in a better place than we were immediately after September the 11th and in the years following September the 11th, but we can't let our guard down. The reality is that there are still organizations there, still people there, new organizations being formed, new people being radicalized, that we have to keep our guard up against them.
There are a number of folks who are concerned about redistricting efforts here in the state of Texas, and indeed throughout the country. There are gerrymandering efforts afoot. Talk about your view of redistricting, if you would, Mr. Attorney General, and what your concerns regarding the changing of congressional districts are.
Well, it is a political process. The Supreme Court has said that. But that does not, in my view, excuse the creation of districts or the drawing of lines that are inconsistent with the Voting Rights Act, which is why we have brought suit where we have, or where we do things that are inconsistent with who we say we are as a nation, who we say we are as a people. Sometimes I think people have to be bigger, our elected leaders have to be bigger than they have been, and have battles with the other side about ideas, but do so in a way and in front of an electorate that is fairly drawn, not districts that are designed only to re-elect incumbents, not districts that are drawn in a way that's inconsistent with the Voting Rights Act and that would exclude people of color, minorities from having electoral opportunities that the Voting Rights Act clearly says they should have. Don't try to frustrate the aims of the act. Compete for those votes. Engage in a battle of ideas, policies, programs, and see if you can win votes that way, as opposed to trying to figure out ways in which you deny people the right to cast their ballots.
Gerrymandering, though, seems to be a long-standing tradition in American politics. How is this different from gerrymandering efforts of yesteryear?
Well, I mean, gerrymandering, so that, to the extent that you're drawing things, again, I say that that's legal. When it's a political process. Sure. When you're doing gerrymandering with these kind of, weird districts and you do them for political reasons, that's one thing. But when you are, when you put into the mix the notion that you are trying to deny a certain minority group, an ethnic group, an opportunity, an electoral opportunity to pick the representative of their choice, that's fundamentally different. That is simply unacceptable. That is something that this Justice Department, as long as I have the honor of leading it, will aggressively fight. We'll file suits where we have to. We will stay up late to file the best briefs that we can. And we will monitor situations around the country as new laws are passed to make sure that these laws are in conformity with the Voting Rights Act. We have a great many important responsibilities in the Department of Justice. Among them, and maybe chief among them, is this responsibility to make sure that every American citizen has the right to vote in the way that our laws say, in the way in which our Constitution would dictate, and as I've said on more than one occasion, in conformity with the ideals that have made this nation great.